Today I'm going to paint magnolia flowers. It's exactly the season of blossoming now. It is so inspiring. Hi friends, I'm Olga Koelsch, watercolor artist, teacher and a book author. Welcome to my studio. Let's have a look at the reference. We see 3 buds. I just quickly find the places for them. This is the biggest one, a little bit cone shape. This is one of the top, also cone shape but slightly narrow, and one more hidden behind. And there will be very typical magnolia branches, and I think this is it with the drawing. I already have mixes of different pinks, like quinacridone rose, and already mixed with ultramarine blue, which will give me this nice, a little bit cold pink. I create relatively diluted mix with my brush in this pedal. I will start to paint with the top one. I keep my brush about 45 degrees to the paper, and I can, with the tip of the brush, I can map out the future petal, one side and then the other side. And then I take another brush, I wash it, it's just clean brush, and with the clean brush I will soften a little bit the edges of the petal. I think my brush had some yellow from. I will add this middle vein and the middle pink part of magnolia, very typical. Second petal. Again, I start with the tip of the brush. I try to follow the shape from what I see on the reference, but slightly emphasize it. No need to try to be very precise. Now with my clean brush, I go around the edges and I soften them. I have a look, where have I the most intense pink purple color, and with the tip of my brush I just add wet and wet, wet and wet. I add more dense, more creamy purple in this area. I allow my watercolor spreads by itself. That's the beauty. Now I would like to paint another petal. Right here we can see just part of the petal, so I will paint it like this. And then same trick, clean damp brush, I go around and soften the edges. And I can add a little bit more. You see, I have on my plate, I have this wet petal and I have more dried colored. So to add more shady, darker parts, I use more dry, bold mix and less water. In principle, I like to leave a little bit of white space between petals. It makes them makes flowers airy, and I like how it all flows all together. I can add just a couple of petals. There is one hidden behind, like this, and one very light one on the right side. I start bold, then I wash my brush, and with wet, clean brush, I just extend the graded wash down, make this lighter petal. One magnolia is ready. How do you like it? Let's paint another one. Basically the same principle. First petals, and I usually start from what I can see better. One of the front petals. Firstly, this outline following the shape, long oval shape. Then I switch brushes, clean brush. I go around the edges and bring all these pink colors, soften them, bring them into the middle, and then again. So I first paint this middle weight, this middle thickness which magnolias have, and make the bottom of the flower a little bit more darker and thicker. And then again, I would like to make it a little bit cooler. I grab more of ultramarine blue from my plate into my mix and paint in the other petal. And in the meantime, I would like to ask you, do you have any complicated challenges, bothering things with watercolor painting? Because I would be happy to record more tutorials about the technique. I only need to know what problems are you facing, what challenges do you have when you paint with watercolor. It can be different things, paints, pigments, paper, everything on P, water control, maybe mixing colors. So feel free to share in comments your thoughts, your troubles, concerns about watercolor, and I will try to think it over and see how can I record something useful. And with the tip of the brush I proceed. I add a bit of bold mix. You see, I'm not correcting, in this time I'm not correcting anything, I just let it go, I just truly let my watercolor flow by itself. One petal on the side, switching brushes, and carefully distribute, soften this outline. We don't need that harsh outlines, but if we soften it, it will create nice graded wash. And this one should be pretty dark. Let's add some darkness into this spot. Like this. Let's see how many petals do we have already. One more would be nice. I try to follow the reference, but I always try to make some adjustments if I see that it will benefit for the composition, for example. And a bit more of dark tone in between, like this. And with my clean brush I can correct a little bit. Here we have unnecessary overlapping, unnecessary bleed. I want to correct it. So I would like to add one more petal. I will use just simple brush stroke aside, and I have a couple of smaller petals. I start with the tip of the brush, then I apply a little bit pressure on the brush, and then I release the pressure. Same on the other side, this small little one, I want to make it a little bit up, but anyway, principle is the same. Tip of the brush, pressure on the brush, and then release the pressure and bring everything to the middle. Let's have a look. I want this petal be more sharp, and I want to add a bit deeper, darker tone. You see, there is ultramarine blue in these colors, in these mixes, and ultramarine has very high granulated texture, and therefore I'm getting this nice color separation effect right here, which I like a lot. Actually, before painting the third one, let's put everything on the branches. For the branches, I have a little bit of yellowish green color from the previous project. Who remember what was the project? And to create this olive mix, I use Viridian and raw sienna. And let me just with triangle brush strokes, I will shape this area. I will paint these brugged small leaves underneath the flower, underneath the bud, like this. And also right here. Right here we have something a little bit darker, another brugged with some hairy structure, fluffy structure on that. So I can use smaller brush strokes to imitate that, to imitate this structure and bring everything to this green area. I want to create really nice dark mix. I will add a little bit of black to my burnt sienna, and I keep my brush pretty loose. That will help me to create these typical knotted, slightly uneven magnolia branches. I even emphasize a little bit this nice structure, and same with the other branch. A little bit more pressure on the brush, some wiggling moves. Don't be afraid to exaggerate it a little bit. It always look interesting when you play around, when you add some dynamic to your brush strokes. I want to add a little touch of shadow in this part, and I think it will be nice if I add one more on the opposite side, although it's not on the reference, but I'm the boss. I decide how to paint. Let's add some of these small green leaves, olive green. Basically, I'm just touching the paper. Also, I want to emphasize slightly the bottom of this part, like this. And now let's paint the third one, but very, very, very loose and transparent. Pink mixes make it even more diluted, and I would like to make it more cold. Just with a couple of brush strokes, I set up the shape of the other magnolia on the other side, on the background. Very light. I like to use the power of brush strokes just as they are. The only thing I would like to add is some shadow, some division between these two flowers. So with the tip of the brush, I add a bit more of darker tone in this meeting point, in this meeting area, and that's it. Somehow it feels like it's actually there is one on the reference, but too small. I think one extra petal will benefit to our painting right here. Just very light brush stroke, hardly touching the paper. Our magnolia is ready. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you enjoyed the process. I'm looking forward to know what would you like to paint next. See you soon. Bye bye.